Good morning. Good morning and welcome to my garden in Bundanoon. It's a small garden. We've been here for just over 6 years, and when we first came all we had really were lots of box hedges and lawn. The trees we have grown ourselves over the years, some pyrus at the front here, and most of the garden and the trees we have planted. So here is a long view of the trees at the front and the driveway. So let's walk up the driveway. It's a small suburban style block, and one of the design features was to give ourselves some privacy. One of the things I really have found suits our garden and Bundanoon are succulents. At first I didn't realise that they would grow here, but they've grown quite splendidly in the garden and we've used them to great effect. I'll walk you up the driveway. Camellias are out, as you can see, probably past their best. A few weeks ago the ground was covered with petals when the wind blew many of them away, but it all looked quite beautiful. So along the driveway, and I have planted all along the driveway many easy to care for plants, many different ground cover banksias. They did spread over the edge of the driveway until recently when we just had them cut back a little bit. But lots of different plants, many natives but not entirely. Got some little daffodils coming up and some irises here. Lots of beautiful banksias which really suit this, I think, garden, nestling under the ornamental cherries and the leptospermums, again given for colour and privacy in the house. I'm always very concerned that the view from the house always looks well too. So more succulents, and I think there's a Beschornia area. Here we are at the entrance to the house. I do love succulents. Little welcoming pot, and the front door with plants along the front. And this is a camellia which in June will be covered in pink flowers. I also have a number of salvias. I did find when I went on a trip in country Victoria that the salvias can attract and do attract lots of little birds, which I do love and do come into my garden. So along the front here I have some perennials which aren't out at the moment, and you guessed it, quite a few of the succulents. A little bird bath. And one of the reasons I like salvias, by the way, is it does attract the little birds come into the garden and suck the nectar from the salvias. A trick I learnt on a gardening trip that I did to country Victoria some years ago. So that's looking back towards the front. And now we come along to the side of the house, and I'll show you, we do have this huge magnolia. We've got a couple of those, one at the front and one along the side. I do want to trim them, but they're just so prolific with the flowers that I'm really quite afraid to do so just at the moment. So coming back, passing my rather wild verbena, which I do love and occasionally make a cup of tea, and coming into again one of the salvias, and this is one of my favourite salvias, and the little birds come here and hop onto the inflorescence, weigh it down and suck the nectar, and the little wings flap enormously. So past my base of the magnolia, with lots of violets round here, and coming again up towards the side and the back of the house. Just here in front of us is a phyllotheca surrounding a bird bath and fringed by the lovely tumbling small lomandras. And then we come to my beautiful maple tree, which is just absolutely exquisite at this time of the year. Again, all of these plantings look really good from inside the house, and from the dining room window we can look through the filtered light of the maple. Underneath the maple I do have lots of hellebores and daffodils which are just about to come through, particularly when the maple loses all its beautiful autumnal leaves. And this is our entertaining deck leading onto the lounge room, and again quite a few plants out here, so an extension of the garden in many ways. Along the side bed here I do have quite a few, got my shadow there, we do have quite a few herbs and strawberries in season, of course, though the season has been quite wild. We have had strawberries quite recently. And here another salvia, which again the birds love. This is the pineapple sage, and contrasts well. You can see some of the wormwoods behind. And here the wormwoods, which really give a lovely shape, texture, colour, contrasting beautifully with some of the plants here in the garden. Nice to look out on from the back deck. And then I do have a few roses, but of course they're not really out at the moment, but there are just a couple right at the end, right next to the rhubarb. So being a small garden, I do tend to have flowers and veggies and things mixed up together a little bit. So now we walk round to the back of the house, and a bit of a borrowed view of next door's garden. And then we walk towards the back. That's seen from our lounge window. A little gecko and some begonias, which I'm very surprised are out here again, but they are part of the they are a succulent too, so I guess I'm not really that surprised. Again, past our borrowed view, and then into another range of succulents which are on the back wall, and I can see these from our bedroom window. It gives me great pleasure. Now turning to the side of the house, and this is a sort of new area. We're trying, and are growing quite successfully, palms here. I will be buying some more palms. I've done quite a bit of research about what palms will survive here. These have been here for a couple of years now, and I just need to get a few more because it really does look lovely. And again, you can see these from the study and bedroom windows. Quickly walking down to the front of the house. Well, we're coming up to a beautiful tree and some borrowed views right in the background, but this tree is my curry leaf plant, which is just beautiful in a curry and gives me some lovely screening from next door. On my camellia hedge, and we're in the front garden, but well protected, and it's here that I do grow quite a number of vegetables. and intend to grow a few more. I do have some raised garden beds are in a bit of shade at the moment. The sun hasn't quite swung round onto them. Before we get there, I'll show you one of the beautiful magnolias. Here we come to my green peppers, which are growing and seem to be doing quite well. And now we come to some of the trees at the front. I've got here a kaffir lime tree, and you can see some of the limes growing, but it's the leaves, of course, which are so useful in cooking. My olive tree, which hasn't as yet fruited. My lemon tree, which is coming on nicely, and my artichoke plant, which I don't expect too much of, but it gives us just a beautiful structural look to the garden. So that really is about all of my garden. Here's a longer shot as we really say farewell, and you can see again the protection of the camellia hedge just before final farewell. Thank you so much, and I hope you've enjoyed my trip around my tiny garden.